Hey, welcome back. It's a Woman Wednesday typically. On Wednesday, we try to give a unique perspective with many of our guests being women, but when you get the big hitters in town, you gotta break the mold every so often. And I've been advocating on Liquid Lunch for quite some time for people to educate themselves, make themselves a little more aware about the great growth in cannabis and cannabis-related companies, and how if you're investing for the long term and you educate yourself a little more, you should be thinking about adding cannabis companies in a small way to your portfolio, because there are great growth opportunities both here in America, certainly in Canada, and what we're seeing is the early stages of a revolution, much like we saw after Prohibition with alcohol. And when you break the mold on Woman Wednesday and bringing them in, it's got to be a good one. And David Shpilt, like Shpilt Milk, is with us today. And you're the CEO of the International Cannabis Corp. You're out of Canada. You fly the world, basically. You live on a plane. You plop down an anchor every so often out in LA, but thanks for joining us here in New York. And tell us what great things are happening here in America and around the globe.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for the introduction and the setup. And That's
kind of what they pay me to do. And you do all the good stuff.
Well, next year I got high standards here next to me. So what I do quite well, and we continue to make our business and our company better for our shareholders. And I've been now 4 months this past Monday, and as CEO, and I think we've hit some real good milestones. We've gone across all of our assets internationally, and we've selected the highest value ones, and we are now executing on the business model. And what that means is we're shovels in the ground. We've secured funding to build out significant infrastructure, and that infrastructure is going to put our quality and grade of cannabis, which is a pharma grade quality of cannabis, into high value new markets such as Europe.
And Canada. Not here in the U.S. yet, because it's still a little tricky, right?
When I cross the border, I'm very, very careful. They say, "Are you bringing any cannabis?" I say, "Absolutely not."
Right.
So no, I'm not bringing in, selling any cannabis here. No, and we're not. We don't participate in any of the equity of any company in the United States.
US.
But we do, however, rely heavily on our Canadian partners and operations. We are taking that that know-how, that IP, and that's what we're using in the international market, and we're using it as a competitive advantage as well.
Excellent. We often have CEOs on who are with publicly traded companies, and I always remind you that I'm not giving you financial advice, and you should go out and do your own homework, educate yourself, make sure it's suitable for you, all that good stuff. But if you want to know more about the International Cannabis Corp, they're traded on the CSX in Canada under the symbol Walter Roger Larry Dog, WRLD. You can check them out there. Frank, you and I have been big advocates for more legalization.
Well, I'm a big advocate of medical marijuana. In terms of recreational marijuana, I think people should be able to decide for themselves, the states, the countries. If they don't want to do it in Montana, but they want to do it in New Jersey, I say more power to those folks. I am curious, though, since you deal internationally, which countries, for years we heard so much about Amsterdam, now we hear a lot about Canada, which countries have the most lenient marijuana or cannabis laws, and which countries have the most stringent?
I think that's a great question. Look, medically has always preceded recreational or adult use markets in federally regulated, or in the states in state regulated on a state by state basis markets. So what that means is that people don't need recreational cannabis, but people need medical cannabis. And when you set standards and guidelines and a framework for the cultivation, manufacturing, and distribution, dispensing, and prescribing for medical cannabis, now you set a very sophisticated set of regulations that it's easy to follow into an adult use market. Colorado was a great use case. California, again, a mature market that's been, it's actually the oldest medical market in the world. So in the international market right now, we're seeing Germany as our highest value market, simply because they have a full scope of medical cannabis policies that allow all Germans, all 85 million, so a large country, they provide insurance coverage for medical cannabis, and there's 3 tiers of insurance. So it removes the economic barrier in a time where there's no provision typically by insurers and healthcare providers for cannabis. And that's important because most chronic pain patients or patients that have mental health disorders,
right,
as an example, will usually have a lower socioeconomic status and therefore are less likely to be able to
for them to get it. If you're in Germany, you're certainly going to need some more weed, the way their economy is tanking of late. Last question, do you have anything on you that I could sample or test or anything like that? Or?
We are going to have to get a medical marijuana license. That's the politically correct statement. Yeah.
You didn't go for it, but David Shpilt, I want to thank you very much. Go check out International Cannabis Corp under the symbol WRLD, and we'll have you back anytime when you have any new developments. Come see us on Liquid Lunch. Thanks for joining us. You stay right there. We'll be back right after this. Kate's going to come on and try to fake it for us again with some fake tweets.